Okay, good evening. I'm John Reynolds, Chairman of the Sewer Commission. This is our October 10th, 2023 annual regular meeting. I'd like to start by asking everyone to join in the Pledge of Allegiance. Dave, do you want to start us out?
Yes, sir. I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the
of the United States of
America,
America,
to the
and to the
Republic,
republic
for which
for
is
which
it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with
with
liberty
liberty
and
and justice
for all.
for all.
Okay, thank you. Okay, in accordance with the requirements of the open meeting law, please be advised that this meeting of the Sewer Commission is being recorded and will be able to be found on the Lunenburg Access YouTube channel after the meeting. The following information is also provided for members of the public that would like to participate in the meeting remotely. To participate remotely from a computer, please use the link to join the public meeting webinar found on the posted agenda, or from a telephone, dial the toll-free number 888-475-4499 and enter the webinar number 871-1768-1305. If you have not registered with Zoom, you will be asked for your name and an email address. Note, no participant ID is needed, just press pound when asked. I'm going to do a roll call vote to confirm who's here. See, Dave McDonald.
here.
Excuse me. Mike Mackin.
Here.
Has Brett joined us yet?
He has.
I'm here.
Hi, Brett.
I'm here.
Brett's here.
Hi, John.
And Mike Nault will not be with us. And I, for myself, staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Bill Bernard.
Here. Here.
Paula Bertram.
Here.
Jane Rainley.
Here.
Okay, great. Any public comment from the public?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I have a couple. I'm back, by the way, so I have a
Great
couple.
to have you back. I want to try to limit the public comment and announcements so that
Yeah.
we don't hold appointments up too late, but go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, one thing I just want to pass our prayers along to our allies in the Middle East, to Israel. And I want to hope everybody gives a prayer to everybody there in the Middle East. The other thing is, Jane, I'm sorry I haven't seen you. I'm glad you're back. And if you have anything, please let us know. My heart's with you. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Dave. Any other public comments? Seeing none, any announcements? Seeing none. Well, I guess, Dave, you can take 3 minutes for public announcements.
No,
We
that's
can't start with Dan Proctor until 6:10.
okay. Well, hey, I just want to thank Mike Mackin. Mike, I haven't seen you since you've been elected, so thank you. Congratulations for stepping up and welcome aboard. And I do a magic trick. But it's been busy, guys. John, how's your family? Everything okay?
So far, yes. Surgery's been, delayed, and as far as I know, things are going well.
I do have a comment for you, Mr. Chair. I have some friends who watch this, and one person, his name is Bill. So, Bill, if you're watching, wants to know, is that a new basement you built down there, a bomb shelter? Because he sees all your ductwork all the time. So, you just want to know, where are you hiding out in a bomb shelter? Or
Yes, it's the warmest place in the house too.
and if Bill's watching, Bill, there's your answer right directly from the chair. So, thank you.
And the ceiling ended up being 3 inches lower than it expected, but so I don't have to duct, but anyone that's 6'1" or 6'2" will have to duck under the ductwork.
Last time I was there, I had to do that, just so you know.
How tall are you?
6'4". I think Mike Mackin would have to duck as well.
My
I don't know,
son
I'm
is
drinking.
definitely after dark.
We know Bill from the DPW can just walk right under that, so no problem, Bill. Mr. Proctor, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good, happy holidays. Halloween's right around the corner.
Yeah, we're getting there.
I see you want to talk about a dog grooming business. Is there anything you don't do?
So unfortunately, I've told many people in the town of Lunenburg, I don't have a crystal ball, so I don't know who's gonna show up and want to buy a unit. So when the dog grooming guy showed up, then I went and saw Paula. It's really that simple.
I think that's a great idea. You know, where can you go around here to get a dog groomed?
Oh, there's a
Rule
couple.
of thumb. Rule of thumb, Dan. Someone hands you a check, you take it.
Words of wisdom. Yes.
Oh, that's good. I hope it works out.
Good. So I'm all approved.
I don't know. I haven't, I don't know why you're here.
Well, we'll find out. Oh, there we go. It's 6:10. Okay.
Perfect.
The first appointment is Dan Proctor regarding dog grooming business at 1325 Mass Ave. Dan, you want to?
Yes, so obviously Dan Proctor, my wife and I are building the commercial bays up at, it's actually 1295 Mass Ave is the address that I was given by the building department for
Thank
that
you.
building. Yeah,
Thank
so
you.
just so you know, for future.
Okay.
Gentleman wants to purchase one of the units. His wife runs a dog grooming business up in Orange, Mass. And they actually live right here in town. So I went to see Paula just to see what the next step was. These dog grooming facilities are self-contained units where the dog stands up on top of the tub, you know, basically to save the workers from bending over type of thing. Very little water is used. It's all wet the dog down, put the shampoos on him, wash it off, and go from there. I did give Paula the readings from that facility where he is up in Orange. There's actually 3 businesses up there. So you're seeing the combined of those 3 units. So I'm not sure the accuracy of that, but it was a starting point anyhow. We're still a long ways from opening. We're still, you know, probably end of December, early January at best, as long as I can get a mass highway permit to run the sewer out into the street, which we'll talk to Bill about that one tomorrow. But ultimately, you know, it's going to be a while. So I'm really looking for an answer tonight on concerns the board might have. I know we can go back and forth as far as how much water is going to be used. Title 5 doesn't really spell out dog grooming, unfortunately, or I couldn't find anything, Paula. I don't know if you had any luck
No.
with that, you know, methodology. So, you know, at best, we would use some numbers that we could get from other facilities and take it from there. So I don't think tonight is really all that important as far as that particular part of it. I just really wanted to get the board's opinion. All these self-contained units have strainer cups so that when the water goes down, obviously it filters out the hair, you know, so that would not enter the system. So I think that part of it is very well run. I did talk to the plumber who's doing all the plumbing at this facility. He said they've done multiple ones and he explained the same process, how they strain the water that comes out of the actual tub.
Okay. And that, as you mentioned, you know, I was looking on the Mass Plumbing Code and a few other places. I couldn't find anything about dog grooming in water volume. So I think what you mentioned earlier, you know, you and Paula perhaps can just go back and forth and figure that one out. And my next concern was obviously dog hair, but you know, it sounds like you've already researched that, and as long as the dog hair is being strained, I personally don't have any issues. But let's open it up to the rest of the board.
Mr. Chair, if I could.
Please.
I have a couple, I build hair salons. So I know when I build a hair salon, the Mass Code requires
Good. Can everyone hear Dave clearly?
Mm-hmm. I can.
No, not really.
How's that better?
Yeah, can you? My
Is it-
volume's up all the way, so I'm not sure, but go ahead, Dave.
So what we have to do, and Dan, what I know is you have to put a strainer in, gets the pet hair or cat hair or whatever they're doing. There is a code as far as with chemicals. I don't think you're gonna have anything with the dog, car. It's almost like car wash. You use a regular soap, right? No chemicals or anything.
That's
So,
correct.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I don't have, as long as they follow the inspectors, and Board of Health policies, I welcome them to be a customer.
Okay. Brett or Mike? Any
No
thoughts?
questions?
Just a question, Mr. Chair. You guys had approved 5 retail units and 5 storage units. I don't know whether this would fall under retail or not, but that's one of the reasons I suggested that Dan come tonight, is because I'd like a formal vote to approve that use, just because it is a slightly change of use from what was initially approved with the permit. And it will trigger additional fees because of the flow. But as you said, Dan and I can work that out.
The only question I have is, and I don't think I have an answer on it, look at the plans. Dan, are you gonna have 1 meter, water meter, and bill your tenants, or are they gonna be separate?
Everything's gonna be separate. 10 electric meters, 10 gas meters, 10 water meters. So they
Okay.
will pay their water bill, so they will pay their sewer bill.
So
We're gonna
Paul-
we're gonna condoize and sell the units is our intent.
Okay, so is there a policy for that, Paula, or do you have that covered?
It's still just one connection. They'll get 10 sewer bills,
Correct.
but it's considered one connection. There's not really a policy for that.
Okay, no, I mean, are you aware there's gonna be 10 meters? I thought it was gonna be.
No, I wasn't. So, I'll definitely have to find the individual addresses for each, and then each will have to be set up as a customer in our system. But with that being said, we're a ways from that.
If he's
So
gonna-
basically what's gonna happen, it's gonna be, 1295 Mass Ave, Unit 1,
Oh,
Unit 2, Unit 3, right down the line.
Yeah.
And that's what we were told by assessors, building department, postal service, basically that's how it would all go.
So if you can just set up, so the way it's set up in our system is we have a customer and an owner.
Mhm.
Are you going to be the owner of the property, or are they going to be the owner of the unit?
They're gonna be the owner of the unit.
Okay, so I'll just have to make sure that I set up the 10 different accounts correctly, that's all.
That's correct. Yep.
Now, Paula, you mentioned, whether this is dog grooming is retail. Dave, you're in the business of building retail malls. I mean, do you have any clue whether this might
Well,
be
this is-
considered? Go ahead.
This is an expanded flow. Retail flow has a much different flow
Okay,
than this. So I do think you'd have to approve the expanded flow.
The flow, I
because of
don't
the
have I don't have a problem with the flow, but it's just like any other lease. So if the lease says, like Paul was saying, the building is a mercantile building, for example, it has a use for so many things. If the landlord comes in and opens up a hair salon, well, that's a different use, but it still follows under the law as far as use of the building.
okay, so Paul, you're asking us, I think, as you said, to vote on to accept a dog grooming business at 1225 Mass Ave. Okay, does someone want to make a motion to that effect?
And the additional flow included.
Right. Well, if you approve the business,
that.
it approves the flow.
Right,
obviously.
right.
And just for the record, we have more than enough flow to handle a dog
Mhm.
grooming thing, so
Yep.
So does someone want to make a motion to allow a dog grooming business at 1235 Mass Ave?
Well, 95, correct, Dan?
1295. Yep.
Oh, sorry.
and you say my mic isn't working.
I'm
I
sorry.
would like to make a motion to approve a dog grooming business to be held at 1295 Mass Ave, unknown which number unit at this time. Or do you know, Dan?
We do not know at this time.
Okay. with any additional water flow that may be included with that.
Okay,
Second,
does anyone want to second that?
second,
Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, let's take a vote. Dave McDonald,
Right,
Brett,
Aye.
and Mike Mackin,
aye.
and I for myself. The motion has passed.
Dan, congratulations.
Okay, thank you. I'm sure I'll be back.
I'm sure you
All
will.
right, keep up the great work.
I can
I'll
see
talk to
my
you
wife
tomorrow.
cooking in the background, so I'm gonna go.
All right, good night.
Have a good night. Thank you.
All right,
Good
Dan.
night.
All right, let's see, it's not 6:30 yet, so we can't start our second appointment. So let's move on to current business. Has everyone had a chance to read the minutes from the last meeting?
Yes,
I read about half of them.
Okay, do we want to, hey, Dave, Mike, have you had a chance to read them through?
Yes,
yes.
Okay, I have also. So I guess if someone would like to, unless you specifically want to hold off on approving the minutes,
No, I'm good with approving them.
okay. So, someone want to make a motion to approve the minutes from the 9/26 sewer commission meeting?
I make a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting of the sewer commission.
Dave, you want to second that?
I'll second it. I wasn't there, but I know we can still
We
motion
can
on
still
it.
do
So,
it.
yeah, so I do.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, do a roll call vote. Dave McDonald.
Aye.
Mike Mackin,
Aye.
Brett Ramsden.
Aye.
I for myself, the minutes have been approved.
Nice job, Jane, if you did those.
Okay, Leominster intermunicipal agreement negotiations. I think this is more about talking about getting the subcommittee together again with Paula and Bill, and just discussing where you think you'd like to go from this point forward.
Mr. Chair, could we have Paul send an email to Mike Nault and to myself, and let's fill in a date to meet at the DPW to go over the IMA for Leominster.
So one of the other things is that we've just recently discovered is that if there is a subcommittee formed on behalf of a board or commission, that it does require open meeting law posting and minutes. So that's something we need to be aware of, and moving forward, we need to make sure we follow, even if it's not a quorum of the committee. But it is a subcommittee, we need to make sure we follow that.
Right, so if you know, if the aforementioned people can come up with a time, whether it's during the day or the evening, whichever it is, as long as we post the meeting, we should be okay.
Right.
Okay,
Mr. Chair,
All
of
right,
course,
so-
when we have a meeting at the DPW, we'll have to take minutes on that, Paul, if I'm not mistaken.
That's correct.
That's a proper way to do it anyways.
Mhm, mhm.
but that's not necessarily required, is it?
It is.
It
is.
it being
Yes.
taped is required?
No, not being taped, but there have to be minutes of the meeting. They can be.
Right,
hand-
right,
They
right.
can be handwritten notes. It doesn't have to be taped.
Okay. Okay. All right, so you guys could get together and do that. I gotta keep track of the time here at 6:23. Business managers report.
So update on system maintenance and upgrades, and I just gotta move my files because I'm out of order now. But we haven't, unfortunately, CTE was being very good about checking in on a weekly basis. However, we missed last week and I had reached out to Wade and asked for an update and I still don't have an update. So I'm a little bit concerned about that, because we were getting someone to come in, weekly. And Bill, I don't know if you've had any conversations with Robert.
I have not met him yet, no.
Okay. I did meet him and he did come in, but I haven't seen him since, so I'm a little concerned about that. I did send an email today asking for an update and I hadn't received anything by the time I left for the day. We did have a control breaker problem on 922 at Mass Ave 1. The breaker tripped and Robert replaced it with a spare breaker. So now we're going to need to replace that spare. But he also indicated that the control panel at Francis Street and West Street both need to be replaced. And I'm waiting for a quote on those. Last year, we had received an estimate of $8,000 each. But I'm waiting for an updated quote. And I did send an email to Wade and he is in the process of getting those quotes.
Okay. And we're still waiting for an opportunity for Wade to come out and visit all of the pump stations, right?
Correct. He did say in his email, in his response, that the generator company is going to be out this week to take a look at the various generators, and that will give them an idea of any work that needs to happen with generators. However, he hasn't been able to do a tour of the stations. He says he hopes he can get out there in the next couple of weeks. The reason I'm kind of pushing that is because budgeting time is going to be here before we know it. And I really want to have some input on a capital plan, because we need to do some planning there. Additionally, we're not getting any reports. So in my email to Wade, I again reiterated the need to get reports. But we haven't received any since they've taken over. We did have a meeting, Bill, John, and myself with CTE, and stressed the importance of getting those reports. And we actually came up with a template, and I put together an Excel spreadsheet that had all of the various stations on one spreadsheet, and I color coded them to try to make them easy. But unfortunately, we're not getting them. At one point, Albie did tell me the data is not making a lot of sense. He doesn't know whether something's happening with the panels or whether things are getting stuck, but the numbers just aren't working. So he said he was going to investigate that, but I reiterated again Friday to Wade the need to get the reports.
I know when we meeting Paula, Bill, and I met with him, he seemed to appreciate the importance of the data on the reports, because it provides a lot of information to us. So let's hope moving forward we start getting them.
I did ask both Wade and Robert to attend the first meeting in November, and they have agreed to do that. So hopefully we can, have that conversation if we don't have any information before then.
Okay, any questions for Paula regarding that?
Yeah, I have a question. Did you try calling them at all, or just all through email?
It's through email.
Can you give them a call and see if they pick up the phone?
I certainly can, yeah.
Yeah, let's just give them, see what's going on. If
Sure.
not, we can send it to Chad's the owner, right?
Yes,
We can send it to Chad. We'll give him a
Okay.
call.
okay. Will do.
Thank you.
Okay. On the next item, Paula, you've got permits to connect issued.
Yeah, just to give you guys an update, we had a total of 12 permits issued in the calendar year of 2023. 1 permit to connect to Fitchburg and 11 to connect to Leominster. There's also a proposed project at 711 Mass Ave that I wanted you guys to be aware of. It will be coming before you. It's a proposed project. It's the construction of 8 townhomes, 3 bedrooms each, for a total of 24 bedrooms. I've provided them the information on the permit fee and the privilege fee, but they're looking to apportion the privilege fee over a 10-year period. And my understanding of the process, and please correct me if I'm wrong, because this is new to me, I haven't done this. is both Bill and I read the process, and our reading of it is that the sewer commission votes to accept to assess the privilege fee and then allows them to apportion it after the project is permitted. Is that correct?
That's my understanding. Um,
What was the question, Paul? I'm sorry.
The question is, this project is going to be assessed a privilege fee.
Yes.
And they're going to apportion it over the 10-year period. My reading of the bylaw is that the apportionment and the right to the assessment and the apportionment is done after the permit is issued.
Yes,
Okay,
that's the way we've done it in the past, yes.
okay. So the plan will be coming before you, most likely, because it is a big project, considered a large project.
Can you give me an idea where it is on SF?
It's right at the corner of Chestnut and Mass Ave behind the Patton family home.
Is that the one where they were gonna put,
All the single family homes, yep.
yeah, okay. And weren't they gonna put a animal rescue?
I
Horse
didn't hear about
hospital?
that. I
No,
didn't hear
well,
about
there was I think there was wasn't there a separate project there that was going to do like a horse barn or something?
A horse
okay.
rescue league or something?
Yeah.
Dave, I think we're confabulating, Dave.
Okay.
that.
6:30, Mr. Chair, 6:30.
Yeah, we must both be over 50. So
Yeah, I know.
okay. Delinquencies.
Well, where's it? 6:30.
Oh, hold on, it's 6:30.
6:30. Yeah.
6:30 is Greg Roy here or
Yes, he is.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, sir.
okay.
Okay.
So the 6:30 appointment is Greg Roy, sewer extension request for 10 Ramgren Road. So Greg, if you want to take the floor here.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. Good to see you all. My name is Greg Roy with Dillison Roy, and I'm representing the applicant at 10 Ramgren Road this evening. Would it be acceptable, Mr. Chair, if I were to share my screen? Is that possible?
Absolutely. Yep. Absolutely.
Let me attempt to do that. Bear with me. I think I need to be enabled. It says it's disabled.
All right. Well, let me see if I can figure that out.
There should be a button down there somewhere, Paul, that says allow multiple participants to share screen or allow participants or multiple something like that.
I hope I have that ability. I don't know if they've blocked it out.
If that doesn't work,
If that doesn't work, I'll
Oh.
have to put my liberal arts hat on and try to be really descriptive with my words.
well,
on
the
how-
other
Well,
thing
I
is-
have it. I have it.
Paula, you
Okay.
have it, right?
Yeah, hold on. Okay. Who can share all? You should have that ability already.
All right, let me try it. And it still says host disabled participant screen sharing.
It says who can share, and I have all participants.
Hmm.
All right, let me turn it off and turn it back on.
While we're waiting, Greg,
is-
if you get a
it
chance,
is-
give me a ring tomorrow.
Yes, sir.
It is on, Greg. Can you try one more time?
Yeah, I did. It's the same thing, Paula.
Wait, Paula, can you share the plan that?
I can.
okay.
Hold on, let me go back.
While we're waiting, I will just note that Chris McKenzie from my office is also on. I have to leave at about 6:45. So if you're still discussing it at that time, Chris from my office can take over, but I'm hoping I can be quick.
I raised my hand because I tried sharing my screen as well and got the same message as Greg was getting, that the host has it locked.
Ugh. All right, and I'm looking for the plan. Greg, why don't you start talking while
Yeah.
I'm-
Okay, yeah, I can be pretty descriptive. So Ramgren Road is a dead end street that off of Whalum Road. It's the second street in from Summer, if you can imagine. I think the road that you get to first is Granite, I think is the name of it. And then up a little bit further up the hill, you get to Ramgren Road. And there's a sewer, of course, running down the middle of Whalum Road. And the applicant, which is one house in on Ramgren Road on the southerly side of Ramgren, approached us a few months back and is interested in connecting to sewer. There is no sewer in Ramgren Road. However, the area is within the sewer district. So we're here this evening to ask the commission, your commission for approval to extend the sewer from Whalum up Ramgren Road about 150 feet to a point where we would set a manhole where we could then connect a lateral from the existing house at 10 Ramgren Road into that public sewer that would be extended into in Ramgren Road. We've given you both a plan and a profile showing, as we customarily do with these type of things, showing the proposed sewer connection. The manhole in Whalum Road is about 10 feet deep, just a little bit more than 10 feet deep. We did verify that. We were able to get the manhole cover open, and we have a good as-built elevation on that invert. We will need to cross an existing drain line to get from Ramgren Road across into the center of Whalum Road where the sewer manhole is. We also got good as-built information on the inverts of that drain as well. So we're proposing to cross underneath that 18 inches below the drain line and then core the existing manhole in Whalum Road and put a short drop, interior drop, because we'll come in slightly higher than the invert of the existing sewer in Whalum. So we won't have to disturb the flow line, which I think is advantageous in this instance because it's more or less a trunk sewer, quite a bit of flow coming down that line. And so we should be able to do the work and keep that flow completely not isolated, but we won't have to touch we won't have to come in low and disturb the existing channels in that manhole. And then we've kept the standard depth in Ramgren Road for future extension, should that be requested by any parties further up Ramgren Road. I think we're keeping a depth that's below the basement elevation so that those folks can have basement service should the sewer ever be extended. I think that's all. I'm happy to answer any questions or take any comments from your commission.
I have a couple questions, but I'll let anyone else go before me.
Mr. Chair, I got a couple.
Sure.
Paula, can you zoom in on the house part? So you're coming out of the side of the house, am I reading? This is all gravity fed?
That's correct. Yep.
So I'm looking at the clean out number 1.
Yeah, we'd have to introduce a bend there, Dave. So we have a clean out in there.
But is it going to be a 45 like that, or is it going to be a 90?
We could do whatever the town would like. I mean, typically we do either a long radius sweep or we introduce 2 45s in there just so it's not an abrupt 90-degree bend.
I mean, you're the engineer. I just know that 90s coming out of a 40. That's a 90,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, coming out of a house like that is always a problem. But,
Yeah.
you know,
Typically we'd do that with 2 45-degree bends, Dave.
yeah, okay. And then you're putting a sewer cover right at the end of that? Is that what that is? A manhole?
Sewer manhole right there. That would be the end of the public sewer extension that we're proposing. And
Yeah.
we're proposing to go into the manhole. I quite honestly wasn't certain if the town would prefer us to do that or to construct a Y connect the lateral to the mainline sewer just downstream of the manhole in a Y configuration. Either way is acceptable. We're just currently showing it as a direct connection to the manhole because it seemed convenient, but we're happy to do that either way.
Yeah, the only question I have is if you look at Ram Green Road, to the right of that, is that a dead end street down to that end? I'm not familiar with this road.
It is a dead end street, yes.
So I mean, the possibility of somebody tying in tomorrow is not gonna happen, I would think, right?
Well, there's quite a few houses. I have if I could share my screen, I'd be able to tell you. There's
Well, I think
past
there are
1,
10,
2, 3,
10 or
4,
11
5.
houses.
Yeah,
You are
there's
sharing the screen.
No, that's my screen.
Oh,
I think there's like 10 or 11 houses further in,
Right.
Dave. Yeah,
But,
They could tie into that manhole is what I'm saying.
absolutely. You could extend the sewer further from that manhole. Yes.
Okay.
Is is Ramgren Road an incline or is that pretty level to Whalen?
It's pretty steep down to Whalum. Yeah, and in this location anyway.
Paula, can you go up a little bit? I'm sorry. You can see the elevations on the side there, Brett.
Over here.
No, the numbers are right there on 475.
Yeah, 476, 477.
And it does continue. I just looked on Google Earth. It does continue to go up. The grade continues up to the dead end. So lends itself well to an extension of a gravity sewer in the future if anybody wanted it, or the group of residents, for example, wanted it down the end.
Yeah, this looks good. Mr. Chair, the only question I have is that I think we should prepare that manhole just in case somebody ties in from the other side. So if you want to put a Y there, I don't know if that would work or not. Like what we just talked about.
Yeah, I'm happy to do whatever the town whatever Bill and his team wants. If we want to put a stub out of that manhole, we could, up the center line of Ramgren for a future connection. We're happy to do that. I find sometimes, you're predicting, do you get the slope of that right? Does it want to be that once you finally design the rest of the line? So I can see going either way on that, but whatever the preference of the DPW is, we're happy to do.
If you're gonna go from that manhole up to Whalum Road, is that gonna be 8-inch pipe from there?
We are proposing an 8-inch extension in the street. Yes.
Okay. And then 6-inch from the house to the sewer?
6-inch lateral. Yep.
Good plan.
So an 8-inch pipe, will that handle another 10 houses if, for God, somebody wants to tie in? Will
Absolutely.
that handle
yeah.
that? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Mr. Chair,
We
that's all I
just-
got. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, Chris McKenzie has raised his hand.
Yes, go ahead.
I just wanted to mention that directly across the street from that proposed sewer manhole, that house is actually, I think, on Whalum Road and is already tied into the sewer on Whalum Road. And I know from past experience, the next house up, whose driveway is a little further up the street, they did a new septic system in the backyard a few years ago, so they're probably not tying in anytime soon.
No, the only question I would have then is, has anyone of the neighbors been notified that this is gonna go and have an opportunity to help share the cost with you?
We did not notify them. So I would imagine the answer is probably no. But we didn't notify that I know of anyway. I don't know if our client has sort of kicked that can, informally in any way, but
Mr.
he's-
Chairman,
Go ahead, Paula.
this property is, as Mr. McKenzie just mentioned, is connected. I don't know if you can see my mouse moving. And
Yes,
the property here is also connected. So they're not bypassing any other property.
right. So I don't believe our regs require a survey under these circumstances with a private connection. So I don't, it'd be nice, I guess, to know if a neighbor wanted to participate in this, but I don't believe our regs require it.
Mr. Chair, I think we gotta look into that, because when we did the one over on your house,
Upland.
actually your house too, we solicited down, how far did we go down to? Rolling Acres, I think.
The regulations require the pipe be sized adequately to accommodate additional flow. It does
Yes.
not require that other individuals be contacted. It requires that the pipe be sized to allow future extensions.
Right, for a private extension, which is what this is.
Then maybe we suggest it as a courtesy to let the other people know and they can share the cost. I'm throwing it up there, that's all. But and that doesn't have to come from us, that can come from the owner doing this. Because if anybody ties into that after this point, it's a privilege recharge. So I mean,
Right.
if you're gonna be digging up the street, if you have an opportunity to satisfy a couple of neighbors down the road, there's nothing harmless letting them know that this is gonna happen.
Question, Greg.
Go ahead.
Is there any kind of an emergency situation, time crunch going on here?
That's a good question. Well, I know that the applicant is very anxious to get it done. And I think it's relating to the septic system. I don't know that I don't know that the septic system is in imminent danger of failing. It might be, but I don't know that it is. I think what's happening is the owner is looking to get this taken care of so that when they're ready to put the house on the market, it can be, it can be all taken care of. They don't have to worry about a failed Title V inspection, for example, and then have to, kind of hit the pause button at that point and go through this process. So they're anxious to get it done. I don't know if if what I just said is imminent or not. It very well may be. I know that they've been they've been honest to get this done and before you. So I guess I'm not. I would have to talk to our clients to see what their actual schedule is, but I would imagine it's probably like everybody else that we talk to. They'd like to get it done sooner than later.
Right.
I understand. Thank you.
So Chair, I was wondering if Bill could give his opinion on it. Is Bill there?
Sure. So a couple things that were already brought up. Coming out of the house where it's kind of drawn as a 90, definitely want to see the 245s in there. And then the manhole in the street, I would like to see the stub for future expansion. I think it's just easier for the expansion down the road. But otherwise, it looks like a good plan. It should work.
And we're happy to do those two things. No problem.
Mr.
Go ahead, Paula.
Mr. Chair, just one question to Bill regarding the street opening. Since they will be opening the street, isn't there a time frame by which that has to be completed?
Yeah, paving it should be done by November 15th. It's most of the plants are closed then anyway.
Bill, are you talking about Whalen Road or the whole project?
Any street, we typically don't allow cuts from November 15th through April 15th unless it's an emergency.
Yeah.
So yeah, they don't have much time to get it done.
So,
Certainly a
question
major
for,
emergency.
question for Greg Roy. Is Greg still here?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I mean, do you if everything was a go tonight, do you anticipate this being able to be done within that time frame?
I get the sense that our client would like to do that. Whether or not they have someone lined up to do that and can get that and can get mobilized and coordinated with street opening permits and things, I'm not sure, but I think I get the sense that they'd like to if they have enough time.
Okay. So, couple things. One, all the questions I had have been answered except for one. I think that if I'm reading the regs right, that this line has to extend at least to the midpoint of the property,
Mhm.
which obviously would be a little further than what you have on this plan.
Okay,
I mean, that's how I'm reading the reg. I would like someone else to take a look at that also.
what section is that, if you don't mind, Mr. Chair?
Sure, it's Appendix D. And it's 7.0 extension submission requirements.
Okay,
Now that is not under private extension, but it would then, when you go into the private extension, I don't know if that, because it's private, if it precludes that requirement to the midpoint. I honestly would need someone else or a couple other people to read that to make sure I'm interpreting that correctly or incorrectly. So,
The chair, I think you're interpreting that correctly.
Okay.
Which means if you go, Paul, if you go down to the house. He's almost there, Mr. Chair.
He's almost there, but he'd
Pretty
have to.
pretty
here.
close. We need another 30 or 40 feet from the looks of it, yeah.
right.
So you'd have to go diagonal.
Well, I think what you're saying is you'd want the manhole that we're showing in Ramgren to be set in the middle of the lot, in the midpoint of the lot. Is that what you're saying?
Yes,
Right, if I'm interpreting the regs correctly, yeah. Yeah.
Right.
So,
Chris, did you have something to add on that front, Chris?
Yeah, Greg, if you remember, didn't we do one on Kimball Street recently?
Yeah,
Right up on the other side of Lake Whalum. I don't believe that went up halfway through the frontage.
I think you're correct.
I don't know how this one would be considered any different than that.
okay, I don't.
And we went into the manhole on that one as well. The new manhole, we used that.
Well, I
Uh,
think that's why it was different. I think that you were allowed to go into the manhole. It really, I think I wasn't involved in the permitting of that, but it was questionable even as it was an extension because it was a very short run.
Right.
And I think that was the reason it was an exception.
and Kimball Street is congested as it was, but I think on Kimball Street, you went right into an existing manhole. Isn't that correct, Chris?
Yes.
yeah, and
Yeah, that's
candidly, the other thing that happened on Kimball Street, just candidly, it was a little, we weren't really crossing the frontage, if you will.
Yes.
Because of the way that intersection came down, it was like this big, we were kind of coming into the intersection up into Kimball Street. And I think effectively maybe getting to a point that could have, that maybe a commission was satisfied with. Because the configuration of the lot was much different. It wasn't, as regular as this is, where you have lot, perpendicular to the street. I mean, if your commission's telling us we need to extend this thing, to the midpoint of the property, that then we'll do it. We're
Okay,
certainly not
Yeah.
asking for any relief on your regs, relative to
right,
this.
I mean, again, that's how I'm interpreting it, but I don't know, Bill and Paula, maybe tomorrow you can read the regs and maybe the other commissioners could also, and just let Bill and Paula know your views on that. Because I don't want to do anything to hold this up, and I obviously don't want to do anything that's going to cost the owner any more than is necessary.
One question, Mr. Chair. He's got the pipe coming out of the house 10 feet. Greg, is there a reason why you're coming up that far off the house?
Yeah, I mean, usually we do that, Dave, because plumbing code kind of ends at 10 feet and then it's site work after that. So we
Okay,
typically hold that distance. It's not really magical though. I mean, we certainly can. But typically that's why we do it at 10 feet.
I don't think, and John, I remember in the past, we did follow that rule right away. What you're saying with the center of the house. So, yeah, I would follow our policy on.
Okay. Brett, Mike, you offer any more on that?
I don't.
Okay. All right, so I don't think there's anything we need to vote on that regarding going to the midpoint. But it
Right.
sounds like we do need to have it go to the midpoint, which leaves the only open issue right now is soliciting the neighbors. Again, I don't think our regs require it under this situation. But I'd like to hear from the rest of you.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead, Brad.
if it's not in the regs, I'm thinking in this situation, with the time crunch involved, if it is possible for these people to move forward, I personally don't think it would be right to ask them to do that and hold this project up till spring with the possibility of these people being able to move on their house while the market is still viable. Who knows what the market look like in 5-6 months.
Okay, Dave.
That's just my thought. I wouldn't want to hold people up if we don't have to.
Okay, Dave.
I don't think it's holding people up, but I do agree. If and Bill, I'll ask you that question. They're not going to pave this street over the next year, is that correct?
The DPW had no plans to pave it, no.
Okay, so if a customer wants to come in the spring and hook into it, they shouldn't have a problem, right?
Correct.
So I think I agree with Brett about holding up the project. I still
Okay.
think a courtesy letter should be sent to those customers on the end of the line that they can hook up at their expense eventually.
Okay. Mike, any thoughts on this?
No, I go along with what Dave
Okay.
and Rick have said. It makes sense that if the regs don't require it, and if it will hold up the project, that it doesn't make sense to require them to do that. If they choose to do that, that's fine. But I don't think
Okay.
I don't think we can hold them accountable for that.
Okay. All right. So it sounds like we're at a point where, let's see, we need a vote on this, correct?
Correct.
Greg, do you have to go, Greg?
I do, but if you're imminent, I'll stick it out.
I think we're imminent.
Yeah, that's fine. I just for the record, we don't have any objections to making those changes. I have three things. Well, I guess 4 if you include notification of the abutters, or of the residents. I have 2 45-degree bends. We can add a detail to the plan, no problem. Add a stub out of the manhole, so for future extension, and shift the manhole on Ramgren Road to the midpoint of the lot.
I would add to that maybe that we're going to tie the pipe into the main instead of into the manhole.
Yeah, we would do it in a Y connection if we move the manhole for sure. Yeah.
And Mr. Chair, the only thing I have to that is I would ask Greg to give you or Paula or Bill a call tomorrow to confirm what our procedures say about that being in the middle of the property. I'm agreeing with you, but I don't have the regs here to double check.
Yeah, I mean, if the board is comfortable and wants to default to Paula and Bill's assessment of the regs on that, we're happy to. Like I said, we're gonna do whatever the town, what your commission and your staff feels is correct, is the correct interpretation of the bylaw. So we're happy to accept that as a condition as well, if you so choose.
All right. So we're at a point where someone's going to need to make a motion with contingencies on it. So who wants to take that on as a challenge?
That's why I summarized it for you guys. I gave you.
Just put it all out there.
I'll take a stab at it. I may need some prompts along the way. I make a motion.
Okay.
Mike, yeah, go ahead, Mike.
I make a motion to approve the proposal with stipulations that the manhole be moved to the midpoint of the property, that a Y connection be added at the street, that a separate connection be made for future connection. And I think I'm missing one.
2 45s
2 45 angles, right?
out of the house.
Correct. Wasn't bad.
No.
That was good, Mike.
Good job, Mike.
Well
I,
done.
I would have said so moved, but that's okay.
Okay. So it sounds like, Dave, you want to second that motion?
Yeah, I second that motion.
Okay. Any further discussion? All right, seeing none, we'll take a roll call vote. Dave McDonald,
I,
Aye.
Brett, aye, Mike,
Aye.
and I for myself. The motion is accepted. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, not included in that is a courtesy letter to the other residents, which I didn't really want to make that part of the motion personally, but it'd just be nice to send a letter out to the residents saying that this is going to be happening, and down the road they would be able to connect.
Mr. Chair, is that
Very
something,
good business. Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, is that something you want the applicant to send, or is it something you want the commission to come from the office after completion of the line?
I think I would prefer it coming from the office. I mean,
And I think it would make sense to do it after completion unless you want.
that's fine. That's fine with me. And the other thing that wasn't included in the motion again, and this might have complicated it, Bill and Paul, if you could look at the regs, and maybe I could stop over there tomorrow about the midpoint.
It's my reading of the regs is exactly that, but I will
Okay.
be happy to look at it again tomorrow.
Okay, so I think we're all set on that, Greg.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Greg, it's always good to see a former member of the school building committee.
You too, sir. It's not, I don't think I've sat across the table from you ever. Anyways, sounds good, everybody. Thank you very much.
Okay, great.
Thank
Take
you,
care,
everyone.
Greg. Bye, Chris.
Take care.
Okay, moving to our next appointment. Paula, can you unshare that?
I sure can. Hold on.
Okay. The next appointment, and I apologize for running late, is Al Warnick and Phil Arcidi, 1 Main Street, regarding grease trap / interceptor. So I know we have Mr. Warnick here.
Mr. Arcidi's here. I don't know if it's Arcidi.
Yes, Philip Archidiakis. Good,
Yeah.
we got the image there.
Okay,
And
great.
I spoke with Bill yesterday, or last week, and I spoke with our tenant. And I'm sorry about the flashing light there. I don't know, it's not coming from me. If it bothers you, I'll turn off the video.
I think it's stopped.
You fixed it. Thank
I
you.
guess we will let the board direct us with the discussion.
I'm sorry. I just lost my audio.
We can hear you. Can you hear
Okay.
us?
I can see your lips moving, but I can't.
Oh.
I'm going to leave and come back in, Paula.
Okay.
Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Can you hear us?
And I can hear you now. Can everyone?
Can't see though.
There you
There
go.
you go.
There you are.
Okay. All right, Mr. Arcidi, I know you were talking, but I didn't hear what you had to say when you started.
Okay, thank you, sir. I am here as the representing Lunenburg Village Realty. I'm president of the family-owned real estate operation there, and with my tenant Alan Wernick. I spoke with Bill, the DPW director, William Bernard, last week, and spoke with my tenant as well. And I understand that there was a sewer backup, for lack of a better word, downstream from the part of the sewer line that serves the village. My understanding from Mr. Bernard is that all of this issue in the sewer line covers a small enough area that Mr. Bernard believes that really the source must be from the village, and we have one tenant at the village with a grease trap, and that's where he had spoken with Al Wernick and with me as well. My understanding is that the purpose of the hearing today is to see if we can find what solution we can find or work towards to prevent the grease buildup, which appeared somewhere between the grease trap and the sewer line in the street. Where it exactly was, I'm not sure, because I haven't been part of the viewing area there. So that's just by way of introduction what my information is, and my understanding is today we are to see what we can find that the commission will find an agreeable next step to prevent buildup and future
Okay.
problems.
I think that's a pretty good summary. Just a little additional information, which you're probably aware of. In 2015, the line on your property was cameraed, and there was no evidence of grease in that line, which is why, and Dave, you can step in anytime here, why an external grease trap wasn't required at the time. There was no grease in that line in 2015, and then here in fast forward to 2023, we have incredible grease buildup on the town's sewer line. I just can't imagine that grease could have come from anywhere other than 1 Main Street. So I think what we really need to be talking about is putting an external grease trap in to prevent any more grease ending up in the town sewer line. Any other thoughts from any of the commissioners?
Mr. Chair, I can jump in if you like.
Please.
Back in 2015, I worked for the inspections of grease traps in the town of Shrewsbury. And when that property changed hands from, I think it was Lunenburg Pizza to Allen, we went down to the site. And at that time, when you change tenants, no matter what the use of the business is, sewer commission has an opportunity to go in and improve the area. 1 Main Street has always been a problem for the sewer department, in one reasons or another. When we took over and went down and looked at it, I know, Alan, you just you had free rent at the beginning, if you remember right, while you're doing the remodel.
It wasn't free. It was delayed.
Whatever. But at the time when you were doing your remodel, I think it was a 3-month remodel. We insisted on a grease trap back then because we knew the problems. Jack Rodriguez was there with us. So we said, well, let's give you, take a look and camera the line. But we've always had a problem at 1 Main Street. But you also said that because of the time factor, you didn't want to lose business. And by putting a grease trap in, you're going to lose some time. So at that time, Jack cameraed the lines and we found no grease at that time. But we knew we had a problem with the interior grease trap. Now, did you put a new grease trap in?
I did.
I did.
Yes, can you hear me? I did.
I can hear you, but I'm looking at some of the reports and it's already rusted out.
Well, it's not rusted out. It's starting to rust. I talked to the gentleman last week or the week before, And I was here when he was cleaning out the trap, and he said that I would need to do a grease trap repair sooner than later because it would potentially fail if I didn't. So I said, okay, fine, it would be a matter of taking it out and welding in a plate. But that being said, I needed to figure out what's going on, you know, as the whole of this conversation. You know, I understand the interior grease trap has to be either repaired or replaced, and that's on me. I get that part of it, you know, but I'm willing to take care of that issue, no problem. Just like I cleaned it out on Sunday. I said, you guys asked me if we could be more proactive last time, and I said yes. So I had it cleaned out, I think Wednesday. So I cleaned it out this Sunday, and there was some grease, but not crazy amounts of grease because we're not open that much. But I think that being done more frequently will also reduce the amount of grease that will build up and, you know, flow into the system. And that in itself, you know, would be helpful.
Do you have a permit of when you put the new grease trap in? Because it's required to have a permit to put a new grease trap.
It was part of the plumbing when we did it. So it was all part of the interior plumbing. I don't know if I was privy to that or not. I hired a plumber, licensed plumber, to do all the plumbing. The grease trap there, that was definitely didn't have any baffles in it, so I couldn't even use it, you know. So that being said, we put a new grease trap in. We did report to you, we put a new grease trap in. I think the first grease log that we sent you said that there was a new grease trap. It was a Zern GT50, you know, grease trap. It was engineered 50 gallons per minute as per I think the sewer department specs can with considering the sink size, you know, because that's basically how it's geared up. Is, you know, we couldn't put in a dishwasher because we didn't have an exterior grease trap. So, you know, we had discussed that also happening, but it did not, because we did not have the proper sized grease trap, and we couldn't put in a size grease trap big enough to house a dishwasher. So we had all these discussions at that time before we occupied the space. And it was a requirement of the sewer department to put in a new grease trap, which we did. That was one of the stipulations you guys gave us.
One of the stipulations was that if we had any problems from 1 Main Street, we're going to be requiring stipulation.
Okay.
Dave froze, but I think I
You
can
have no
finish the
floor
sentence.
drains in your space either. I'm sorry, you there?
I'm here.
We lost you for a second, Dave.
You froze up for a
Okay,
minute.
Okay,
mine just said my internet connection is unstable. Okay, how's that better?
yes.
Yeah.
So I guess the question that I have, Al, is I know you have no interior floor drains, correct?
No,
Okay, so that was one of the things that we talked about as well. And I also know that, and Paula, we have to go back to when they bought the, when they got the new tenant in there to see what was given. I don't remember ever seeing anything about a new interior grease trap.
I don't either, but a lot of the files have been moved to storage, so I have to go back through them. But I'm happy to do that.
Okay, I mean, we got to do that.
I didn't see anything in regards to a new grease trap, but that doesn't.
I never
while
seen a
while
grease
you're
trap.
checking the files, I'd like to know why an exterior grease trap wasn't mandated when they put the sewerage in, because they mandated me to put one at 1353 Massachusetts Avenue. So here we are with this, you know, one person has to do something, the other person doesn't have to do something. Already paid for one on my property, you know, because the town told me when I hooked up to the sewer, it was mandatory, but it wasn't mandatory up here. So I just like to know, when you're rechecking your files, why now all of a sudden, you know, 10 years later, it's an issue, and I understand it's an issue, but why it wasn't an issue at the inception of the project.
It was an issue.
It was an issue.
When 1 Main Street, when the sewer went in, 1 Main Street was an existing building. That's why it wasn't required. That's why the sewer department has the right to go in and update everything when there's a new tenant, and that's where you fell in. So.
There was a new tenant at that time. When you hooked up the sewerage, there was a brand new pizza shop that was built. I know this because it was a brand new pizza shop built at the time the sewerage was. Once the sewerage was hooked up, they were allowed to open. They weren't opening until the sewerage hooked up, the roads were paved, and they hooked up to a brand new sewer line without an exterior grease trap. My building was also an existing building, but they mandated me to put a grease trap in.
We
On
did not.
33. I got a
Alan,
letter that said you had to do it.
Alan,
so I
I'm
did
gonna
it.
tell you right now, the only time we require to put a grease trap in is when there's a change of use. That's where you fell in. Now, you told me personally that you follow the law, and that's why you put a grease trap in onto Jack's or
I
whatever.
did that.
it's called.
I did
And
do
you did the
that.
one in Fitchburg. And we
I
also
did do
said,
that.
and we also said, if you remember, that if we ever have any problems with one Main Street, it's gonna be required a grease trap. And that's where we asked the
I
landlord.
don't have a problem with the grease trap. I'm not arguing the grease trap.
Exterior.
Wait, we have to be careful when we say grease trap. Let's make sure we
Exterior grease
distinguish
trap.
between
I'm not
internal
arguing
and
an
external.
exterior grease trap. I'm just not willing to pay for an exterior grease trap is what I had said. If you remember the last meeting, I said, I'm all for this. I don't want the problems. I have no issues with this. This is not my issue. This is an issue between you and my landlord here. Because like I said, if you guys mandate it, you guys want it, I don't have a problem with this. You know, this is not an issue with me. I just don't want to have to pay for it because I don't have the money to pay for it. I'm only working part-time here in Center of Town. So if you're getting frustrated with me because you think I'm against this, I'm not. I'm willing to follow the rules. Okay, it's my business. I understand that, but it's not my property. And if I move out tomorrow or go bankrupt tomorrow, you know, it does not do me any benefit financially to have this. You know, so I don't think I should. That's all I said last week. If you look at the meeting last week, I said exactly what I'm saying now. I'm not against an exterior grease trap.
Al,
the
Al,
way-
I,
The way, excuse me, Mr. Chair. Alan, the way that works though is that you're the tenant of Philip's property. It's between you and Philip. Our job is to make sure what comes off that property is fog free. The fines from DPW or from DEP for grease in the system is tremendous. And we'd be glad to give you a bill when we get sued by the DEP. We have to control the grease coming off that property. That's the bottom line. I don't care if you and your landlord are having a dispute over that. That's between you and your landlord.
Well, we actually haven't even discussed it really yet. We're waiting for you all to make a determination as to what's going on today, and then we were going to move forward from there.
Okay, so Mr. Chair, I'll give it back to you.
Before I start talking, do either one of the other commissioners have anything to add?
I do not.
Well, can I, you know, I think that Dave has summarized the issue completely, which is that it appears that we need that external grease trap. And that is something that is not under the tenant's control, because the tenant doesn't have control over that property. It's under the
Right.
landlord's control. And
Right.
therefore, it's between the tenant and the landlord to resolve those differences, but we need the trap.
The external.
Yes.
I have a question, if I may now.
Yes, absolutely.
If, when I spoke with Mr. Bernard, he, and I think reasonably said, it could simply be that the grease trap that's been there is expired. And I had spoken to Al about replacing it with a new grease trap.
Yes.
Is the board willing to let us see if that solves the problem?
Are you talking about the interior?
Correct. Getting a new one in place.
Apparently that is not sufficient.
Correct.
How do we know that it isn't?
Because it's failed. We've gotten sewage down the line.
Okay, now, do we know if it's failed because it's old or because no interior grease trap work? You see, let's get back to the fact that most of the time if we look at the duration of a pizza place there, things have worked. Recently, they haven't. It would lead me to say, okay, we had something that worked. If anything, the volume is less. So I don't think we can jump to the conclusion that we've got an undersized grease trap for the nature of the business. It seems logical to say, well, the grease trap's been there for whatever, 8 years, 10 years, 20 years. I'm not sure what the amount of time is. I'm willing to propose, I'd like to propose, and I mentioned this to Al, get a new one in. We're going to know pretty quickly if it works. And whatever level of review the commission wants to see, okay, now we can deduce the problem wasn't the capacity, how much restaurant business the restaurant has. It was a predictable thing. Yeah, the thing was expired. I'd like to propose that as a next step. I do believe it's something that could be done rather quickly. And given the history of the site where there was that, and if it's cleaned out frequently enough, and we can agree on, you know, the timetable to have that done, we might have a workable solution.
Mr. Chair, if I could,
Yes.
Philip, I appreciate what you're saying, and that's a very good idea, except I have a couple of issues with that. One is, if you look at the maintenance that's been going on now that Alan's doing, he's spending a tremendous amount of money cleaning this out every other week, where an external grease trap will pay for itself over a period of a couple of years. I mean, that's a fact. I mean, and Alan, you got to agree with that. I mean, you have these grease traps. You don't clean out your exterior grease trap that often, do you?
Well, I clean out my exterior grease trap in Fitchburg every 6 months. And I clean it out in the other one just because it's just maintained. By the way, while I have you guys here, I'm just letting you know, I'm trying to get paperwork from Wind River from my other store, and I'm having a hard time getting the forms from the thing, putting that out there because I just came to my head. That being said, I clean that out once a year. You know, we had it cleaned out in September. I don't have a problem with it in Fitchburg. The lines do get a little greasy. We do a much bigger volume in Fitchburg than we do here. We're only doing a small volume here right now. I intend to open full time again. That's my intention, you know, which will then, of course, increase the volume. As far as the grease trap goes, there is a question of if this is an undersized interior grease trap. I did not have it engineered. I got it approved when I put it in. You know, I didn't just pick up a grease trap. I had to buy one to your specs. I mean, is 50 gallons enough? Maybe we need to go to a bigger grease trap inside, you know? If not, that's fine. I do have other grease traps.
Alan, we don't have specs. We don't tell you what size grease trap is. An engineer does that.
It's the plumbing inspector, actually.
Yeah,
Well, that's okay. So the plumbing inspector.
You should have had an engineer to begin with. And Philip, I would highly, highly, highly recommend that you do that. It's your property.
Yeah.
I would highly get an engineer to look at it.
So I appreciate the board bringing all these points because I am responsible as a landlord that all the other tenants are served and are safe as well. Another reason I advocate for a new interior grease trap is if there's a problem, we're going to know where to fix it in the place where the grease originates. I'm not comfortable with putting something further downstream on the property. And if something goes wrong there, I've got a bigger set of vulnerable people. It's just tougher to figure out. I believe going right to the place where it originates, coming up with, yes, properly engineered, so the spec is what is required, agreeing with the town on what the frequency of the clean out, and giving this a try. Again, given that it had worked, and given that, you know, the use will not be any more intense than it has been in the past, I find it's going to be easier as the landlord for me to know, okay, this is where the problem is, this is where we fix it.
Philip, I appreciate everything you just said, but you're kind of incorrect. We've always had a problem at 1 Main Street. Always. It's been a thorn in the sewer system side. Now, that's why we took the action when we did. When there's new tenants come in, we have a chance to fix this. And that's why, there's nothing against Alan, and it's nothing against the property
It's
owner.
not personal.
We just want to do this right. And trust me, the town doesn't want to say, hey, Philip, you're going to buy a new grease trap. I mean, these guys, when I say these guys, Bill and Paula, already started working on solutions for you to try to keep the cost down. And I think, I don't know, Bill, did you tell Philip about what you found?
I did. We talked about it briefly, yes.
I mean, there's something for minimum money. You have a exposed or an abandoned septic system right in the parking lot. I would strongly recommend you have an engineer look at that because you'll be paying less than half the cost of doing the work. And that would solve all the problems. We just got to make sure that we don't get fined from the DEP, or even worse, your property, for some reason during COVID, contributed a lot of those wipes. I mean, we got tons of wipes in that sewer down in that area. So we want to make sure that your property increases its value instead of having a very bad sewer system involved. And we take pride in what we do, but we want to help you too. We're not trying to bust your cubes here. We want to make sure whatever we do it right for you. And I'm going to tell you, by going with the same interior grease trap, you're not going to have any solution. It's going to be the same problem. It all goes back to employee training as well. And Alan, you know that. I mean, you have employees all your life. You have an exterior grease disposal dumpster there, I presume, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I mean, I don't know how often your employees dump that into the into your exterior disposal system, but that's the right way to do it. But it's a crappy job. Nobody likes to do it.
No, we definitely utilize that more than they like. We even dumped the greasy water into it now, and they get mad at that, but I'd rather do that than pour it down into the system. I've mitigated probably since this issue started. I've been not like really hardcore on what goes down the drain, period, including foodstuffs, etc. Because I had to take a hard course on grease and fog. Because honestly, I'll be honest, I didn't understand the whole thing. I understood that grease didn't go down and that you have problems with it and it causes blockages, but I didn't understand the fine particulars about it. So I learned. Okay? That's why I understand where we're at right now. I'm not a grease guy. I make pizza for a living. I don't let the guys drive, pour buckets of grease down the drain. I know better than that, from years. But there's stuff that goes down the drain that shouldn't. And now nothing goes down the drain.
Alan, you do make good chicken wings, though. I just want to state that for the record. That's you make good chicken.
I know.
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day,
yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead, Dave.
He froze again.
Between Philip and Alan and Paul. How's that? All right.
You froze. We didn't hear you.
Yeah, Dave, start over.
The only thing I suggest, Mr. Chair, is at the end of the day, I think Philip and Alan knows that we have to find a solution.
Yep.
And I got to thank Paula and Bill and yourself, by the way, Mr. Chair, in doing that. But those two have to sit down and say, okay, how are we going to fix this? And we can offer them assistance any way we want, but we got to get this fixed, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Right. I perhaps at this point, and I'm open to any suggestions. I guess this would be more the landlord's responsibility, but looking at the options of what can be done with a bigger, better internal grease trap to assure the sewer commission, sewer department that no more grease is going to get in, versus an external grease trap, which I feel very confident absolutely would resolve the problem. So do we want at this point to require an external grease trap, or do we want to give them the opportunity to look into, like I said, a bigger, better internal grease trap? But I think it's got to go a little bit beyond just the plumbing inspector. Dave, your voice is off.
You're muted.
Dave, you're muted.
sorry about that. Mr. Chair, I'd recommend that we vote for an external grease trap with the caveat that Philip can talk with Alan and take a look at the used septic system that's in the system now. And maybe get an engineer. I mean, I'd recommend an engineer. The only thing that would change my mind would be an engineer coming saying that if Alan went with a 150-gallon grease trap, grease interceptor and cleaned it once a month.
What, you mean 150-gallon internal?
Yeah, I mean, that's how much grease is coming out of that building. It's just, it'll be cost effective in my business because we've installed these to use
So-
grease trap on his property.
Okay, do you want to phrase that in the form of a motion?
Mr. Chair, I recommend that, or I put a motion that we advise the landlord and the tenant from one, I'm trying to do what Mike Mackin would do, from one Main Street, to come up with a solution to install an external grease trap once and for all, either through engineering or use the used system on their property. Does that
Well,
make
that-
sense?
But I think that would also require engineering, so,
No matter what, you're gonna need engineer drawings on a new one or a used one. But I would definitely, and we did this at Bootleggers, back when Bootleggers remodeled to help Alan out.
right, okay, I have to apologize because I interjected discussion. Dave, why don't you start your motion over again, okay? If you don't mind.
Yeah, no, I just want to make sure. Okay, Mr. Chair, I put a motion that we have the landlord and the tenant to place an external grease trap on the property of 1 Main Street. That's my motion. And then from there, you can work out, we can second this and then work out the business part of it.
Okay, does anyone want to second the motion?
What, if I may, what happened to the option, Mr. Reynolds, of increasing an internal grease trap, which you had brought up? I
Well,
don't hear that.
There's a motion on the table. And then if someone seconds that, then we can have further discussion, then potentially modify the motion.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, any further discussion?
Mike, you gonna say anything?
Yeah, I'd like to amend that motion to have an engineering report that explores the replacement and expansion of the internal grease trap and the existing septic system. And that report be made available to us in order for us to determine that an external grease trap is the only option.
Okay. I have an amended motion right now. Do I have a second for the amended motion?
I kind of like that.
So is
If
that,
If I may, does this mean that the board will review an engineering report on an interior grease trap to then determine if it's viable and at that point make a final decision on an interior grease trap versus an exterior? Is that how am I understanding that correctly?
That's the intent of my motion.
Okay.
and that's my understanding of the intent. Dave, is that your understanding of the intent?
That's very good, the way we do it.
Okay,
But the only thing I want to ask, Mr. Chair, is in the meantime, we have DEP hanging over our head. If we find out that this goes on and not solved, who takes responsibility? Do we have the right to go back to 1 Main Street and say, hey, here it is? So I think it goes down to liability, if you ask me.
If I may, do you want to impose a timeline? Is that the most effective way?
I'm thinking more of a hold harmless agreement between you and the town. That if something happens from your property, you would take sole responsibility if something happens down along the line caused by grease.
So
Right
that's
now-
an issue between me and the tenant to figure out who's, you see, the tenant is the source of the grease. The tenant is the one who has the permit. For me to take the responsibility for someone when I can't be there to know exactly what that person is doing.
Yeah, no, I understand that. So, Mr. Chair, we can put a timeline on it that we need to have this engineer report 30 days. Is that acceptable, Phil?
Not having consulted an engineer for this, I don't know what their backlog is to know what I'm hearing
Yeah,
that's out there
I
in the
think-
field.
I think 30 days might be a lot to expect. So-
Is Greg Roy in your building, Philip?
He is.
There you go.
So if you find his expertise appropriate, I'm sure he would not ignore what we need to do if you would find him acceptable and everything.
I mean, he's an engineer. I mean, I don't know exactly
Yeah,
what he's
we can't really, yeah.
We're not recommending
We-
anybody.
I can't recommend anybody.
Okay, but at any rate, you consider him qualified. That's all I need to know.
Nice guy.
They're professionals. They are civil engineers who are PEs.
Yeah, they're certified engineers under Mass DEP.
So to be 100% honest, I'm a little confused to exactly what the motion is before the commission right now. Jane, maybe you can help us out here. She's
No,
still,
No,
I
I
think she's-
can't.
No.
I've got
I
too
was
much
waiting for
here.
that.
Mr. Chair, keep the motion what Mike said. That's fine. Jane, you have that, right? So if you got-
Yes, I do.
yeah, that's the motion. I'm just saying that we can't let this go on. We need either hold harmless or something.
Mr. Chairman,
yes,
are we in the discussion phase on the amendment?
Yes.
yes, I
Yes.
believe we still are.
Okay, and then we'll vote on the amendment.
Yes.
Correct. Correct. So is there any further discussion?
Is this, should somebody find out if Greg Roy has an expertise in this area specifically of grease containment? I don't know if that falls under his engineering expertise or not. That's the question I have.
Whether it does or not, I don't think it matters. It's what's important is that a qualified engineer who has experience with this would be consulted.
Alan, you must know some people.
Very
You put the grease traps all over the place, right?
No, I just hire the cheapest guy. Who knows?
All right,
Yeah,
so,
okay.
all right, hold on. So,
Actually, I converted one grease trap. So the one on Main Street, Mass Ave was a converted tight tank. So that was just a plumber went in. The one in Fitchburg, I had a plumber, this is 20 years ago now. So I don't know anybody, to be serious.
Okay.
all right, so Jane, is it possible for you to read back the motion as it stands now? To your best.
I had
Jane.
originally, it was to advise landlord and tenant to replace an external trap at 1 Main Street. Then Mike amended it to have the engineering report that explores internal and septic system, and there may be more there. I can only
There
type
is, I'm
so
sorry.
fast.
Let me try it again. It was to demonstrate that a new, larger internal grease trap will eliminate the need for a new external grease trap.
And is there a timeline in there?
We haven't come up with one yet.
Okay.
I wasn't gonna make that a part of the
Okay.
motion, but if you wish, I could amend the amendment.
Yeah. If you wouldn't mind, I think 30 days might be unreasonable, but 60 days might
Then
work.
I'll accept the friendly amendment as 60 days for that report.
Okay. Do you have that, Jane?
Should we add that we require Al to continue doing the cleaning as often as he is in the meantime to prevent further damage to our system in the meantime?
Well, I believe Al is
Might be a
doing the
given.
cleaning right now, and he knows the
Right.
expectation. And
Agreed.
we're expecting to hear something in 60 days, so I think we should be all right.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, please.
I had received, Al, you had sent me the report and I may be missing one. You had sent me the one for September through September 27th. And that's the one that has the note that the trap will require a small repair.
Correct.
But I didn't get a report from the cleaning that you mentioned on Sunday.
I didn't know I had to give an individual, I cleaned it myself. All you guys requested was that we scoop out the grease on the top.
Okay, so you didn't have someone come in and clean it. You just did
Not at $500 a pop.
Okay,
you know.
I'm just questioning. I thought when you were talking.
Would you like me to take, I'm serious about this too. Would you like me to take pictures and send it to you weekly? I mean, I'll do that until we're resolved. Like I said, I'm trying to be proactive here. I mean, I can go in there, take the cover off, take a picture, scoop the stuff out, take a picture and send it to you guys. You know, I mean, basically there wasn't a lot of grease this time, but you know, it's only a week and we just had it professionally cleaned. So there wasn't a lot of fog. There wasn't a lot of gunk at the bottom, you know, those types of things.
So I sent the report that Al had sent dated, it's September of 23. It's dated 9/29/23. And I will say that the percentages are being filled out. And I did send this to all of you in your packets. On September 3rd, it was 3%, September 10th, 7%, September 17th, 11%, September 27th, 15%. But Al just said he just cleaned it out. So he is filling out the internal grease trap logs. And provided that we continue to get those on the first Tuesday of the month, it would be, you know, he is complying with that requirement and is specifying what's being done. Now, you
All right,
did
so-
indicate that the grease trap was professionally cleaned, all fog, sediment, water solids removed, washed with hot water. If you have a report from Echo Oil, I think that's who did it.
Yes.
That would be helpful if you could when you do have a professional cleaning, if you could forward those reports.
That was that's all they give me is what I sent you, is that one scribbled piece of paper. Basically it said on it, you know, what it basically needed a repair.
I didn't get that one, so.
Okay, I will send it to you. I'll take another picture and send it to you again.
Okay.
That's why I wanted to make sure you get everything, because after last meeting, I wanted to make sure that we had this done. We know where we stand. So when we move forward, we have actually from this point forward, we have a measured amount. We can just, you know, figure out the problem. You know, that way, if this in fact does work and we don't need an external grease trap, you know, great. But, you know, I'm just going to do what you guys tell me to do. I'm just going to be proactive and help the situation. That's the best I can do at this point.
Okay, so I think with what Al is doing, we should be fine for the next 60 days. So again, we have a motion on the table. I'm going to ask Jane to read it one more time to make sure we are in agreement here. If you don't mind, Jane.
All right, wait a minute. So my question is, originally it was to advise landlord and tenant to place an external trap at 1 Main Street. Is that not in it now? Because then the amendment was to have an engineering report that explores internal and septic system, demonstrate a new larger internal trap will eliminate an external trap with 60 days for the engineering report.
Mr. Chairman? Mr.
Thank you,
Chairman?
Jane.
Did we
Mr.
lose
Chairman?
John?
Bruce?
I think we lost him.
What do we do?
We wait for him to log back on.
Yeah, he'll come back. Mike, is that what you said though? I thought, was that your motion?
Mm-hmm.
Was that your motion, Mike?
Yes.
Okay.
I just sent John a text. He's trying to get back in. I don't see him yet.
So Philip, I've heard a lot about you. You're doing a good job. I appreciate what you're doing for the town. It's a nice plaza over there.
Well, thank you. It's taking what my dad started decades ago, and we recognize the center of Lunenburg is not like most places, and everything we've done when we added buildings, we wanted to preserve the village feel over there. We've been fortunate with the mix of tenants we've had, and we've seen over the years how Lunenburg has changed, the sort of tenants we get, the sort of business there is, and it started with a beautiful quality design, and we try to keep it. We try to keep it like that. And
Well,
thank you.
I met your dad a few times. He was a good guy. I'm sorry for your loss.
Yeah, God bless him. He lived 93 very full years. We took care of him at home. And I remember he would come up every Wednesday, the middle of the day. That was the day he took his break from his dental work to come up and meet the tenants and everything else. And
He was a tough guy, so God bless him. Mr. Chair, you back?
I'm back, but I just have to say very quickly, I'm getting some flickering in the electrical here in my house, so I could drop out again. Jane was reading what we believe is the motion, but if, let's see, who's left here? Mike, in case I drop out, in case I drop out again, there's enough of you to move forward. That's all I want to say. Okay.
Mr. Chair, we're ready to take a vote on the amendment.
Okay, but I missed Jane's reading of it. Jane, you've never been on visual as much as you have tonight.
So originally it was to advise the landlord and tenant to place an external trap at 1 Main Street. So does that stay in there?
Yes.
Okay.
I remember
With the
correctly,
amendment,
Mike added to that. Yep.
with the amendment to have engineering report that explores the internal, must be trap.
Mhm.
And I had septic system, but I don't think that's.
That was the external to explore the
external.
option. Yeah.
All right, external. To demonstrate a new larger internal trap will eliminate an external trap.
The
With
necessity of an external trap.
necessity.
Mr.
And-
Chair.
Mr. Chairman? Oh.
Yeah, Mr.
With-
Chair, Brett, you're up, Brett. John dropped off again.
Yeah, and let me just add, Jane, you had a requirement in there for the report.
With the, yeah, with 60 days for the internal, for the engineering report.
Engineering report.
So Brett, if you want to continue with the vote.
Yeah, you gotta run the meeting.
Okay, I'm on it. So motion has been made and amended. Now we need a second on that before we could vote or have
Mr.
further
Chairman?
discussion.
Mr. Chairman, just a protocol, the second amendment really replaces the first motion. So I think you want to either rescind the first motion and go with the second amendment, or do it as two different motions because they contradict each other.
Right.
So
One
Mr.
requires the external trap, the other says to basically to allow them to explore another option and to come back within 60 days. So you're
Got
really.
it.
Yeah, to
Right.
make it.
Let me
May
I
I
do.
say as the maker of the motion, my intent was that I'm not saying that they don't need to have the external trap. I'm saying that they have to prove that they don't need the external trap.
Right, so let's start over. No
Well,
official way to renege a motion, right? Let's re-motion.
Someone
Yeah,
can
no, no,
withdraw
no.
the motion.
Mr. Chair, all I gotta do is, I made the motion, I can withdraw my motion, Mr. Chair.
Oh, thank you.
Now
And,
you can vote on the second one.
Right, which also nullifies the addition to the motion. I mean, the
So Mike would make his amendment in the form of a motion.
right. Okay, so that's
So I
start a new
again,
motion.
we have a new
Yep,
motion, which I will
And
make.
let's start with the beginning. Go ahead, Mike.
I'm sorry, Jane. One more time.
Yes.
All right.
No,
Okay, so
we
it's
need
not
you-
an amendment. I have to take that out.
right, we need Mike. Mike.
I
we
will,
need
but
you
I want to get the
make-
wording again.
All right, let me just
Oh, I see.
copy this and move it.
I think we should start fresh, and I'm suggesting, Mike, that you make a motion expressing that we're going to give the tenant, the property owner and tenant 60 days to have an engineer determine whether a larger interior grease trap is going to do the job of keeping all grease out of our sewer system. And if not, we will require an external grease trap.
And that's my motion.
Perfect.
Now I would love a second to that.
So moved.
The second.
Thank you, Dave. Is there any further discussion before we vote?
No,
Okay, seeing none, I'm looking for votes. Dave,
aye.
Mike,
I,
and I for myself. Thank you all. I knew we could do it. And thank you for your help. And thank you for all your help, Jane.
I want to thank all of you for working professionally and constructively. And I'm going to get on the phone tomorrow with the engineers and get moving for all the reasons that we've discussed here. So thank you.
So-
thank you.
So if I could just say
Thank you, Alan.
thank you very much for
You
helping
are
us.
very welcome. See
Thank
you
you.
next
Thank
time.
you.
Are we gonna reconvene another time, or are we gonna make another date 60 days from now or anything like that? Just curious.
I assume.
We will make another date. I think that once we get the engineering report, I will schedule it on the agenda.
Okay,
And so if you have
Excellent.
any questions at all, contact Bill or Paula. And thank you.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thank you,
Good night.
Philip. Thank you all.
you're welcome. Have a great night.
Bye, Al. Thank you.
Good night,
All right,
pieces.
folks.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. We made it through that. Moving forward, let me bring back something on my screen.
We're on the business manager report.
Yes, let's get back to the business manager report, and we are on number 3, I believe.
Yep. So good news. I had sent out a memo to you guys earlier today regarding the update of the conversion. I had sent an email to members of Tyler Tech, Caesar, as well as the town manager and the chair of the selectmen, and the chair of this board outlining the critical nature of being able to print bills. Fortunately, I was able to work with a technician this afternoon, and we were finally able to generate bills. There is some small issues remaining in that between every bill, I have to reset the printer, so that's not going to work on November 15th when I'm doing 1,000 bills. But I think I can work with our IT department to get that corrected. So good news on that front. The delinquency rate and the outstanding accounts, at the last meeting, I think I had reported that our delinquency rate was 21 or 22%. I sent out 193 bills on 9/19 with James' help. 22 of those bills have been paid, so our current delinquency rate is 19%. We have 80 bills remaining outstanding from fiscal 23. Total, we have 415 bills outstanding from 2007, beginning in 2017. So I continue to work on getting those delinquencies addressed and trying to implement a process for non-criminal disposition. So still working on that. Item number 4, before I go on, is there any questions on either of those? Okay. The item number 4 is the rating and classification of the sewer business manager, and I had sent you guys an outline of my concerns regarding that.
Is that, excuse me, Paul, is that number 4 or number 5?
Yeah,
Oh,
you
that's
skipped
number
one.
5. Sorry, that's number 5. I sent you guys out a memo regarding the rating and classification of the sewer business manager position. I continue to have concerns, but not necessarily this evening since we're so late. But at some point, I would appreciate input from the sewer commission, and feedback on that, and potentially support via correspondence. But we can table that another time if you so desire, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
I don't know if you want to talk about that or if you want to just table it, Brett.
Mr. Chair,
Well, I have to say I was pretty shocked that they did not approach the commission and all commissioners on this subject. It just makes absolutely no sense to me. So something has to change for the system. What can we expect to be the next step here, Paula, exactly?
Honestly, I don't know. And I don't know if Bill has any. I mean, I've provided correspondence to the personnel board. I re-looked at the information that I sent out to you guys, and it really struck me that this position where I'm dealing with over $1 million budget and a lot of different complex issues, that I am rated less than a van driver or a seasonal cemetery worker. So I am, quite frankly, I appreciate the work that those individuals do, but I think that the complexity of this position deserves to be rated higher. So I would appreciate a support of this commission and perhaps a letter to the personnel board with any concerns that the commission may have. Because, they have indicated this is the first step in the process. However, I have seen many times where the first step in a process just kind of takes over and the process just continues. And my concern is that I want it heard that this position needs to be rated differently and the job description has to be upgraded.
Mr. Chair, if I could, and I
Certainly.
appreciate what Paula said and what Bill was there. And again, let me know if I'm wrong. I'm just as upset as everybody else, but being on the personnel committee for 4 years, I also know that they're experimenting. They're trying to rewrite it. This is not etched in stone by any means at this point. I think a letter from our chair to the personnel committee to keep us informed is a good idea. But they're still playing with it. There's nothing etched in stone that that's what's going to happen. Is that correct, Paula?
I don't think anything is etched in stone, but my biggest concern, quite frankly, is that what they indicated at the personnel board is that they're trying to identify positions that they call outliers, and that's the term that they use. And the document that I sent out had some yellow highlights that I think are outliers, but at the last personnel committee meeting, the question was raised is how many outlier positions are they? And those were listed. And the comment was made that they did not consider the sewer business manager an outlier, meaning that it doesn't need to be readdressed. And that is my biggest concern.
I think, and again, I think we did this before. I think a letter from this board to the personnel committee saying that we'd like to see the final draft. And we should be seeing the final draft since it's our business to do that. And I would strongly recommend we do that. But before we get upset over it, I like to see the final drawing, what they're doing, for us to say something. And that's my opinion, but you want to be fair too. You're not a van driver. We know that you're running the sewer department for the town of Lunenburg. And so isn't Bill. So together, I think we got to make sure that our voices are heard as far as the commission. I mean, that it's got to go through the commission. That's my opinion on this.
And saying that, there's got to be a way for us to get input before there's a final draft. The commissioners need to have input before there's a final draft.
Absolutely. I mean, I think I'm more upset that they're doing it without us knowing about it. And I'm wondering what other commissions or boards or personnel they're doing it in the town of Lunenburg. And that's something that maybe we could send a letter to the chair of the personnel committee. But yeah, that should be told to all the departments. And for us to find out the way we did, I'm not too happy about it. But again, too, it's an exercise. Same thing, we do our budgets. Nothing's finalized until we go to town meeting and finalize it. So they're looking at it. But if they're on the wrong road, they should be advised of that. So and again, I think we got to give the personnel committee credit for trying to do something. I just don't know what the end results are yet.
May I?
Mike, did you
It
have
sounds
something
like-
to add?
Yeah, it sounds no. It sounds like the issue is that they're actually not looking at it because it's not considered an outlier, and that's of concern to the commission.
Right.
And with that, I don't think that we need to go into a great deal of detail in sending a letter about our concern that it is not being considered an outlier, given the scope of responsibility and the complexity of the job requirements. I think there's nothing wrong with just saying that we're concerned. Like we're just letting them know that we're watching this and we have concerns.
I agree with that. Absolutely.
Fair enough. Okay.
So my suggestion is that I don't know who, John or you, or I don't know how we go about this. Draft a letter. I would be willing to just, make a motion to empower them to just, draft a letter with those particular sentiments.
If we require a motion to do that, we should definitely do that. Paula, is a motion required for that?
I don't know that it's required, but I would suggest it.
Okay, well, let's do that. Mike, let's turn what you said into a motion.
I move that the chair communicate to the personnel committee our concerns that the job of the sewer manager is not considered an outlier in terms of the current formula for reconsideration, and that our concern is that due to the scope of the responsibilities, the complexity of the responsibilities, that due consideration should be looked at to consider that an outlier and examine ways to rectify that.
So motion. Is there a second?
Yeah, second. Jane, you get all that?
No,
Yeah,
that's why I've watched the video.
okay. The only, and Mike, I like what you're saying. If we simplify it a little bit, and I think that the chair should send his concerns to the personnel. And again, as outlined what you just said. But I just don't know, at the end of it, should it just come from the chair or should it come from the entire board and we all sign it? to me, that's a little bit more effective. If
Oh, okay, well, I'll take that as I could,
An amendment.
I'll amend my motion to include that the chair will draft that for all of our signatures.
So the motion would be
So-
one more time for Jane, because Jane's looking at you like, over here.
John's gonna draft a letter for approval and signature by all of you, outlining the concerns that Mike stated.
Correct.
Okay,
Oh,
that's good.
All right. Perfect.
I
And
second that, Mr. Chair.
all right, we have a relatively clear motion that is now second. And Jane, I suspect, has a handle on it now. And thank you all. I'm going to go for a vote now. And I'm going to start with Mike.
Aye.
Dave,
Yeah,
and I for myself.
Thank you.
All
all.
right, so we still have a couple more things on the current business. The business manager report. Did you skip number 4, Paula? Did you touch on that?
The delinquency rate?
no,
I-
upgrade software system conversion.
The upgrade on software.
No, I
And
said,
this-
I talked about that. That was number 3, and that was that we got good news, but that I have to hit the.
Oh, I see.
Between every bill. So I think I did talk about all of those. The last thing on the agenda is the assistant to the sewer business manager position.
Correct.
The individual that had indicated they were interested is no longer interested. But we do have 2 interviews scheduled for next week, for this week, actually. Is it this week? It's the 17th, so it's next week. So I'm hopeful, keeping our fingers crossed that we can fill that position.
What happened? Why the applicant just change her mind, change his mind?
She just decided she's gonna retire and doesn't want to go back to work.
Okay.
Okay.
So that's all that I have under the business manager report. I did have one question, however, and that is our November 14th meeting is at 6 p.m. and then special town meeting is at 7 p.m. that same evening. So the question was if you guys wanted to meet earlier, if you wanted just to limit the agenda at the 14th and then be able to go to town meeting, or how you wanted to address that. We do have 2 articles before town meeting, and that is to move money from into various funds. Unfortunately, I don't have the wording right here. But I wanted to find out how you guys want to handle the meeting on the 14th.
I would like to recommend we meet a little bit earlier. And before I continue, I think I'm going to transfer the meeting back to our chairman, Mr. Reynolds. Welcome back, sir.
Oh, you were doing such a good job while I was
That's
gone.
right, you're doing a good
So,
job, man.
Yeah,
You're in the
all our
groove.
visitors are gone.
I don't know if I'm having a personal power outage here or what.
Mr. Chair or
I-
Assistant Chair, I would recommend we move that meeting to the 13th. Just to go over town meeting stuff. I know I'm going to town meeting. That's gonna be tight to do a meeting and then get down to the town meeting.
Right.
I think it's-
I'm available the 13th. Brett, Mike, are you
I can do
available?
the 13th.
Okay.
Are we talking 6 p.m.? Usual time. Okay.
Yeah, if that
I
works.
should be able to make 6 p.m. on Friday.
Okay.
Are we looking at an extended
It's Monday.
meeting?
It's Monday.
Monday, yeah.
November 13th is Monday.
Oh, November. Yes, that would work just great.
Okay, Paula,
Yeah, that works for me. Yep.
Bill,
Bill, you're muted.
Yep, that'll work.
Yeah,
and
and
mo-
Mike,
and most importantly, Jane, who got lots of airtime tonight.
I know.
Yes.
Yeah, I can do the 13th.
Okay. All right, so it sounds like our next meeting will be November 13th.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah,
Just to note that one of the meetings was scheduled for November the 18th, which is a Saturday.
Oh, my goodness. Thank you,
Yeah.
Mike.
Paula will
Yeah,
be
thank
there,
you.
so-
I was wondering about that. I was gonna bring that up myself.
Mr. Chair, what happened to the 24th meeting? Are we not having the 24th meeting? October?
It would be the 31st because
It
it's
would
the
be the
last Tuesday in
31st.
the month.
And you and Paula are going out trick or treating.
Yeah.
Halloween.
No, we talked about that quite a while ago.
We did.
We, our personal lives are important. So
No,
we-
that's fine. I
Okay.
forgot it was all over.
So
Remember
I
those?
just wanted, that was a typo on the agenda. It's November 28th, which is the last Tuesday of the month.
okay.
Sorry about that.
Thanks for picking that up, Mike.
No problem.
All right, so see, we were talking about upcoming meetings. So did we go past the public comment?
We did, actually.
So I guess we're at the point of, does someone want
No,
to
I mean,
adjourn?
we didn't do public comment, so if there is.
Oh,
public-
okay. Any public comment? There's no public left here, right? So,
We
Public
scared them
comment.
all away.
yeah, any public comment from the commissioners or staff?
Okay, I just want to say it was a good meeting tonight. Thank you all it was a good debate tonight. We enjoyed it.
So it sounds like you like long meetings, Dave.
No, but you know what? We got a lot done tonight. This is the first time we had it's a 2-hour meeting. In a long time. And we got a lot done.
Yeah, they've gotten longer since Mike Macon has joined the commission.
Yeah, who wanted that guy here?
Yeah, I think they used to be an hour and 10 minutes would be a long one.
I agree with Dave. We got a lot done.
Yeah,
Hey, Mike, don't let them bust your cubes, just.
all right. On that note, does anyone want to make a motion to close the
Adjourn.
meeting?
Oh, this meeting's been too long. I make a motion.
Thank you,
Does
Mike. I'll
someone hurry
second
up and
that.
second that? You second that, Brett?
I do.
All right, let's take any further discussion? No? Dave?
Mike, the only thing I can tell you is that I've seen you in meetings a lot longer than this.
Oh, God, yeah.
It was almost like you turn it up for 2 hours, you turn it back on and you're still there. Chair, I say, what was supposed to
All right, seeing no further discussion,
aye.
that's an aye from Dave. Brett,
Aye.
Mike,
Bye.
aye from myself. The meeting has ended.
Oh, hey, happy
Thank
Halloween.
you all.
Yes.
All right.
It's a good
Good night,
meeting.
everybody.
Night, everyone.
Nice costume, Paula.
Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Hi, guys.